children were taken from us. 19 children who will no longer be able to grow up, go to school, have families or even jobs of their own. And for many, many visitors, it is a very difficult sight to see. The smaller chairs sitting next to the larger ones, and knowing that innocence was taken from us on that morning. Also at the far western end is a column of 5 chairs. 5 lives were lost outside the Murrah building when the bomb went off. 3 people lost their life in 2 other buildings which are located at the western end of our property, where the Serpentine Path is today and the Rescuer's Orchard is. 1 person was unfortunately crossing the street when the bomb went off, and their life was lost. And the last person to lose her life was a rescue worker. Her name was Rebecca Anderson. Rebecca went to the building on one trip. She was a nurse to help those in need. On that trip, unfortunately, she was hit by falling debris. She managed to make it out to where she refused medical treatment, but in the middle of 5th Street, she collapsed and slipped into a coma. And 4 days later, Rebecca paid the ultimate sacrifice for sacrificing her time in our time of need. Rebecca's story is just 1 in 168. Each one of those chairs tells a story. And I would like to share another story with you, but it is not about a specific chair. It's about why we chose the chairs. And this story was told to me by one of the designers named Hans Buser. And when Hans was a boy, he would go back to Germany, and he would visit his grandfather. And his grandfather took him out to a lake where Hans used to love to play. He would even take a rowboat out to the middle of the lake. Well, his grandpa didn't want to get out there on the rowboat, so he sat on a bench on the shore and just smiled at Hans and waved at him as he played. And this memory stayed with Hans. He always remembered this memory. Now, years later, when Hans's grandfather passed on, Hans went back to Germany. Hans went back to that lake, and he took that boat out once again. And when he got to the middle, he turned to look on the shore, and he saw that bench. And he tells us, I did not see an empty bench. I saw the memory of my grandfather sitting there, smiling at me and waving back at me. And I wanted to bring that feeling here to the memorial. So he chose an empty chair, much like an empty chair at our own dinner table at home. When a loved one is gone, their chair is empty. But we are not thinking about the chair. We are thinking about our loved one and where they are and what they are doing. It's those memories of all those meals that we have shared together. And that is our hope, is that when family members come here, they can look at those chairs and they can see their loved one sitting there, smiling at them and waving back at them. So they can focus on the good memories and not the tragic event that took them from them. At night, a radical transformation will take place, and these chair bases will light up, projecting 168 beacons of hope into the darkness that gives us the feeling that good is overcoming the evil. And that feeling started on that morning, because between the 901 gate and the field of empty chairs, there is a series of jagged walls with rebar sticking out of it. Walls that look a little out of place for a beautiful memorial such as this. But these are the surviving walls of the Murrah building. And on these surviving walls, we have the granite panels that were recovered from the rubble. And those granite panels list the name of well over 600 survivors. Those lives that were both physically and emotionally scarred, but not taken from us. Not every survivor has chosen to have their name on the wall, because some of them are still going through their healing process, and rightfully so. If and when they come to that spot, they are ready. All they have to do is come back here and say, I am now ready. And the foundation will gladly include their name on that survivor's wall, because we want to remember that survivor's spirit. We want to remember that resilience, what brings us all together. And I know I just told this couple stories just a minute ago, but I want to share a story of a survivor with you now. But that survivor is not listed on that wall. That survivor will never have their name listed on that wall, because that survivor is what we are standing underneath today. It is this beautiful, over 90-year-old American elm tree. We call this the survivor tree because it is the only tree on these entire grounds that survived the Oklahoma City bombing. On that morning, it stood in the middle of the parking lot, and when that bomb went off, the cars parked underneath this tree caught fire. You can still see the scarring on the tree today. Leaves were blown off this tree. Branches on the ground. Car parts strewn through it. Glass and metal from the Murrah building were embedded deeply into this tree trunk. All this catastrophic damage led us to believe the tree would not live. It would succumb to its injuries. The FBI saw this, and they noticed the shrapnel in the tree, and they thought the tree was going to die as well. So they wanted to cut the tree down to take it back to the lab and use it as evidence against the bomber in the trial. Now, it took a little while for the FBI to cut this tree down, but something amazing happened. We saw a leaf pop open, and then we saw another leaf pop open. And we realized, even though the tree was in bad shape, the tree was alive. So they convinced the FBI to not cut the tree down. The FBI finally agreed. So the city rallied around the tree. They tore up the concrete parking lot. They let the roots of the tree flow freely again for the first time in decades. They pruned the branches of the tree to promote the healing, the health, and the growth. They even vaccinate the tree against disease, so diseases such as the Dutch elm will not come through here and take the tree down from us. Underneath this promontory that was built for the memorial is its own irrigation system, so the roots receive that constant supply of life-giving water. And even during ice storms, volunteers will come here and they will tap on these branches with big long poles to keep the ice from building up and weighing down this tree. This might be one of the most cared for trees in the world, but rightfully so, because it speaks about how we all came together and we all picked each other up and we took care of each other in the wake of this adversity. And as a result of having faced that adversity together, this community is bigger and healthier and stronger than it was even before the bomb went off, just as the survivor tree is lush and more beautiful today than it was before that bomb went off 16 years ago. This is a very special tree, and it does speak to that unity as well. But these other special trees around us also speak about unity, because we call this the Rescuers Orchard, and it remembers the 12,000 rescue workers who descended upon Oklahoma City to lend their helping hand in our time of need. These rescue workers gave us the cycle of life back to our community on that morning. So we remember them with these flower and nut-bearing trees that give that cycle of life back to nature each spring. The Chinese pistache and the Amur maple tree. Remember the rescue workers from all over these other 49 states, far away as California, Arizona, New York, and other states as well. But right beside us is this tree you see in full bloom today. This is the redbud tree, and it is the state tree of Oklahoma. And it remembers the Oklahomans who were first on the scene. And right now you can see how beautiful it is, because the state tree of Oklahoma is in full bloom, and it is giving that life, and it is giving that rebirth back into the season in which we lost so much in this city. We remember those helping hands with our eternal gratitude, but other groups lent their helping hands as well. And an important one was little kids, because they saw people hurting. They wanted to help out.